All right, this is going to be the second video for Notes 40. We're going to talk about graphing conjunctions and disjunction inequalities. So the first inequality we have here is a conjunction. Now, you might be looking at, how do I know the difference? So conjunction inequalities are two inequalities that can be written together like this, or if you separated, it would be -8 is less than x, and that's the big conjunction term there, right? It tells you it's a conjunction, and x is less than 2. Those are the two things, right? You can either join it with and, or you write it together as a single inequality. All right, we're going to graph this, which means on my number line, I need -8 and +2. I don't bother to put all the numbers in the middle. You can if you want to. I'm not worried about it. So for the first inequality, it says -8 is less than x. Now, if you wanted to, I'm going to slide this down just a touch, okay? If you wanted to, you could flip this inequality around, and instead of reading it as -8 is less than x, literally flip the whole thing, and you got x is greater than -8. Now, the reason I like to do that sometimes is I find a lot of students prefer to have the variable first, especially when you're writing inequalities, so that you know, all right, if we're talking about x is greater than 8, from -8, I'm going to need to shade to the right, okay? But at x itself, or at -8 itself, we're going to go ahead and use a parentheses there, because that's going to help us with the interval notation. Now, the second inequality says x is less than 2. So from 2, I'm going to shade to the left, right? Less than 2. But at 2 itself, again, parentheses here. So we have the stuff in yellow, -8 and greater. We have the stuff in blue, 2 and less. And what I'm looking for is what makes both of these things true at the exact same time, which, if you know color theory, yellow and blue makes kind of a really pale green in the middle here. So that's going to actually be the interval that is true. So it's going to be -8 to 2. These are the values, any number between -8 and +2, that would make this conjunction true. It's -8 is less than x, and that x value is less than 2. So we're trapped between those two values. That is your conjunction. All right, part B, this is a disjunction. The way I know a disjunction is because this is an or. All right, I'm going to look to see what makes this inequality true, and I'm going to look to see what makes this inequality true, and I'm going to take everything. Because as long as this works or this works, we have good answers. So on my number line, I need -3, I need +9. So if I'm going to graph this first one, it says -3 is greater than m, which would mean that if you go the reverse direction, m is less than -3, so -3 down. We're going to go with a parentheses here for the interval notation. Or, right, m is greater than 9. So I'm just going to go ahead and shade those things that are greater than 9. And we'll put a bracket, no, parentheses, not a bracket, parentheses right there. So what I'm looking for when I talk about a disjunction is I want to look across my graph, and I want to look for any shading that exists anywhere on the graph. So I have shading over here, and I have shading over here. So we have two intervals of shading. So this shading, if I go to the far, far left, is going to represent -infinity. It's going to go all the way up to -3, parentheses on both. Union, right, that's the little U for union symbol. We're going to pick up at 9 and then go to infinity. So this would be the interval notation that represents the graph that I've created there. Okay, so that's part B. Let's see. Oh, there's part C. All right. So this is a conjunction, right? It is joined together as a single kind of two-part inequality going on here. So -6 is less than or equal to x, and big important conjunction there, x is less than or equal to 7. So on the number line, I'm going to have a -6. I'm going to have a 7. So for the first one, let's do, I don't know, red and blue. So -6 is less than or equal to x. So that means x is greater than or equal to -6. So starting at -6, I'm going to shade the things that are greater than that. So it's going to be to the right. And then I'm also going to need to use a bracket there because I do have an equal to notation. And then I want to have the inequality x is less than or equal to 7. So from 7 here, I need to shade things that are less than that. So we're going to go to the left there. Grab my highlighter. Left, 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 left. And I need a bracket again because I have the equal to. All right. So because we're talking about a conjunction here, we're going to look for where the overlap is. And that overlap starts at -6 and it goes to 7. Finish off my bracket there. So that is the two-part answer for part C. We've got the inequality graphed, and then we also have the solution there in interval notation. All right, so let's see. Part D, we have a disjunction. So graphing up my disjunction here, I've got -2, +4. And these are just graphed separately, right? Each one does not interfere with the other one. So -2 is greater than x, which means x is less than -2. And that's going to take a parentheses. Or, of course, x is greater than or equal to 4. So from 4, a shade greater than that. And the equal to part there means I want a bracket. Okay, so inequality-wise, this is a disjunction. So I'm just looking for any shading on the graph whatsoever. So our shading on the left is going to start at -infinity, go to -2. Then, draw a bracket. Actually, a bracket. There we go. Bracket 4 to infinity. And yes, it's going to be super important that you know the difference between when you use the parentheses and when you use the bracket. So parentheses is when you have an inequality with just greater than or just less than. Bracket is when you have the equal to component. Okay. All right. Last part for this video. I know there's a part E. I'm going to say it's in there somewhere. We have another conjunction. So 4 is less than or equal to P, and P is less than 16. So on my number line, I need 4, I need 16. Let's see what we got here. P is, I'm reading this one, P is going to be greater than or equal to 4. If we read it the reverse direction, right? So 4 is less than or equal to P. And when I say read it in the reverse, you can literally just reverse the whole thing. So instead of having the variable come last, put the variable first, but that does mean the inequality sign has to flip. If you're going to do that, just be super careful. All right, so that means I'm going to shade from 4 to the right. And I'm going to take a bracket on that. Okay, and I want P to be less than 16. So from 16, I'm going to shade to the left. It's going to be less than 16. But 16 itself is going to get a parentheses. Okay, so because it's a conjunction, we're looking for and. I want the overlap, where both of these inequalities are true at the exact same time. And that's where I have both the red and the yellow. So there's a kind of orangey spot in the middle. So 4 to 16 is going to be the interval notation for that one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the video on this part. This was graphing conjunctions and disjunctions. I know there's another little section on notes. I think this is notes 40. I'll get to that in a separate video. As always, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and I'll see you in the next one.